Hello, world. This is your host, Zach, and this is Zach on Earth, the show where we bring you news from the human world and beyond. The reason that we're doing this show, I'm just a curious guy. I want to know more about a lot of these different things. I don't think there's any end to pursuing knowledge, to trying to learn new things, and that's really the goal of this show. And hopefully we can make it fun and entertaining too. So like I said, I'm your host, Zach Colton, and this is Zach on Earth. So let's get right into it. We're going to give you some news from the human world, from the animal kingdom, even from the plant kingdom, fungi, rocks and minerals, outer space, tech. Really, we're going to try and cover as much as we can on this show because there's a lot to learn out there. So let's dive right in and get to our first story here. So we're starting with a human-centered story. It's called "We Killed 3 Russians, the secretive Ukrainian special forces taking the fight across the border." So obviously we know this war is going on. It's been going on for about 9-10 months now, raging in the Eastern European country of Ukraine. Russia, led by Vladimir Putin, had invaded. It has been denounced worldwide. There's a global coalition sending aid to the Ukraine, really trying to support these freedom fighters as they, try to defend their sovereign nation. Now this is getting a little scary, right? To say the least, right? Obviously it's been scary already, but this is really alarming to me because it's no longer that these Ukrainians are simply defending their home territory. They're trying to take the fight into the Russian motherland. So I wanted to read some of this story, try and get to the bottom of a little bit of this. So let's get right into it. We killed 3 Russians. The secretive Ukrainian special forces taking the fight across the border. Kyiv and Western governments deny they exist, but saboteurs say they are striking Russia on its soil with the help of its people. Now, this is crazy to me, right? It's not just that they're trying to now push an offensive. They're fighting in Russia. They're getting help from Russian citizens to help them do it. So let's see a little bit of what this story has to offer. What can it tell us about what's going on in Ukraine right now? And we'll see what we can learn. If the worst happens, Taras, 23, Vladislav, 21, and their commander Alexei, 39, are well aware that the Ukrainian government will deny any knowledge of them. In Western capitals, there's a collective shudder at the very thought of them. They're members of the Bratstvo Battalion, a volunteer group of Ukrainian special forces taking the fight against Vladimir Putin beyond the front lines of the war in Ukraine, past the occupied areas of their country, deep into Russia. The work ranges from the kidnapping of senior Kremlin officials to the destruction of key military infrastructure and the downing of enemy aircraft on Russian territory. Let's pause there for a second. I watched Star Wars, like the original trilogy. I watched some of the trilogy from when I was younger, episodes 1, 2, and 3. I tried to get through the most recent trilogy. It was tough. But one thing I picked up on when I was watching the original trilogy was the role that the rebels play in that movie, which what I saw was that they're really the aggressors in a lot of these encounters, right? They were the ones to shoot first. They're the ones to use violence to try and get their way. And they're justified because it's obvious to the people watching the film, right, that they're on the good side. They're fighting the good fight. So just the idea that things like kidnapping, destroying property, right, downing enemy aircraft, right, we're supposed to support that, right, because they're the good guys and Russia's the bad guys in the narrative we've been sold to this conflict. So again, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. Clearly, Russia was the aggressor here. They're trying to defend themselves. But the fact that now they're pushing into Russian territory, it doesn't scream to me that they're trying to really negotiate a peace here. I don't think that's been the main strategy this whole time. Clearly, from the United States perspective, we're sending them all this aid over and over again, package after package, bigger amounts of money, different types of weaponry from tanks to now it's jets. So it really seems that there's no impetus here to really find some peace. So let's keep going with this article. Let's see what else it has to offer us here. Their work range, so we read that. It might seem odd for a battalion such as theirs to allow their stories to be heard in public, but that is to misunderstand their purpose. In everything they do, there's a single message they want to send. It is very easy for us to cross the Russian border. Oh, it's easy! Well, that's good. That's good then, I guess. It's slamming the Russians here, saying, hey, your border's easy for us to get across. What are you going to do about it, right? I don't love that. I don't love that they're provoking with this, but let's keep going. the youngest of the three with a smile. So he's saying this cheeky. He's like, yeah, we can get across, whatever. What are you going to do about it? That's literally the attitude he's taking. The volunteers of the Bratstvo Ukrainian for Brotherhood have a peculiar, so I don't know if there are women involved in this battalion. I hope, maybe. We'll see, I guess. We'll see. Maybe it's just a brotherhood. Have a peculiar status, technically independent from Ukraine's army, but operating side by side with the official forces. Their arm's length status offers deniability. They're like, you can do the dirty work that we're not gonna do. We're gonna authorize you, and if you get caught doing some crazy stuff, we had nothing to do with it. You're not associated with us. Alexei is in intelligence, he says, but the battalion recruits mainly civilians or plucks the brightest from other voluntary battalions. So they already said that this is a group of special forces, and now they're saying that it's mainly civilians. So I wonder if that's what makes them special, is that they're not like trained like the army, they're just civilians. I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. He says he understands why their work must remain apart. The reasoning is nevertheless hard for them all to swallow. It comes down to the West's the West. The West. That is the problem, isn't it? The West's nervousness at the thought of Ukraine having capacity to hit Russia in Russia is highlighted by the protracted debate over Germany's provision of Leopard 2 tanks and the refusal of the US and others to supply F-16 fighter jets for now. Much of that anxiety is probably linked to the Kremlin's threat to use nuclear weapons if the very existence of the state is put under threat. Why would it be? Why would the state of Russia be put under threat of existence, right? Well, maybe it's because they're now trying to push into Russian territory. I mean, personally, I think if you are a sovereign nation being invaded, that doesn't give you the right to invade back, right? It doesn't give you the right. You should certainly do what they've done already, right? Fight and try to maintain their territory. This is what we say is our sovereign border. You should respect that, but pushing the fight back into Russia doesn't seem to be the right outcome to me. It doesn't seem like that's what the option should be, because I don't see an outcome where Ukrainians start wanting to annex Russian territory and take that back. That's certainly just escalating things. So it doesn't seem like this is going to actually come to any workable solution just by this group of a couple of civilian soldiers pushing into Russia, even if they are being helped by Russia, right? Maybe this story is more about that idea that Russians are not supporting Putin as heavily as we thought they were, right? And that might be true, but it doesn't stop Putin from sending hundreds of thousands of soldiers into the front lines. The fighting is intensifying. I don't know what this is going to do. Let's go down a little bit. Let's see how this article ends off, and maybe we can push into the next story a little bit. It's a long article. Clearly, I didn't read the whole thing, but this is what I've gleaned from so far. So Western readers may expect from us that we're going to blow up the Kremlin, but so far this is not the case. Clearly, it's on their mind, though. My opinion is that you should start with small tasks and then move on to more complex ones. A friend of mine has a saying: to destroy an enemy military base, you must first blow up the doghouse. So clearly, peace is not really on their mind at this point. They're trying to fight with all that they've got. They're trying to push back into Russian territory. That seems to be a really escalatory move that doesn't seem to me to really lead to any kind of workable peace. It just seems to be kind of adding fuel to the fire here. So that is kind of the current state of where things are, just based on this article. Clearly, the fighting is intense. There's aid being sent to Ukraine. Putin is throwing more bodies at this conflict, and now the Russians are helping Ukrainian civilian soldiers fight in Russia. It's not good. It doesn't seem good. So that's that's kind of the state of that. I want to move on from this because this is a little bit depressing. Let's get some positive news. And now this is some news from beyond the human world here. So let's go to Bobi. 30-year-old Bobi breaks the record for the world's oldest dog ever. Wow, that is awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Bobi. So Bobi is 30 years, 267 days old. He's a dog named Bobi. He lived in Portugal. He was declared the world's oldest living dog. Well, I feel like those are the only ones that would count are living dogs, but he's the oldest. Guinness World Records, so it's legit. He was born in 1992, so he's older than I am. Bobi is now 30 and 267 days old, the Guinness World Record said. He's a purebred Rafeiro de Alentejo, I'm sure I said that wrong, a breed known for protecting livestock, according to the American Kennel Club. These dogs have an average life expectancy to 12 to 14 years. So what are they giving this dog? What are the secrets that this dog has to offer us? What are the words of wisdom, or the woofs of wisdom, if you will, that this dog can give us? How are you going to get your dog to double its lifespan? Well, let's see if they have anything to say about that. Oh, look at Bobi. He is a champ. Look at him. How do you not love this dog? He is 30 years old. He's dirty 30. Looks like he's killing it. Let's see. He's calm and sociable, his family told Guinness, adding that he loves to be pet, enjoying playing with his 4 cat siblings. He likes to walk around the family's farm. Bobi can also be found relaxing by the fireplace on colder days. So clearly having a stable home, having some animal siblings, a nice farm. If your family has a farm your dog can roam around on, that helps. But, I think that's probably a big part of it, right? Having a space to roam around, to be able to, do all these things, that is great. The previous record holder for oldest dog ever was Bluey, an Australian cattle dog who lived to be 29 years, 5 months old, but no longer. So that is one of the stories we wanted to bring you from the animal world here. Let's all congratulate Bobi. This show brought to you by Bobi, the world's oldest dog, in the Guinness Book of World Records. Sponsor us, and we'll get to it. All right, let's go on to our next animal-related story. Padayappa, the friendly Indian elephant whose fame is a curse. Now, look at this scoundrel of an elephant here. I don't know if I've seen a more mischievous-looking pachyderm in my life, but let's see why they had to write this story about it, because I'm sure there's going to be some interesting stuff about it if it's related to an elephant. Padayappa is I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Padayappa is an icon in the southern Indian state of Kerala. A resident of the state's lush jungle, the wild elephant is known for its drop ears, massive tusks, and its friendly disposition. Padayappa's connection to the people of Kerala goes back decades, so it's probably older than Bobi. Locals in the town of Munnar, near Padayappa's habitat, have called him a gentle giant, never hurt anyone, though he occasionally steals food from their homes and farms at night. Well, I'm sure stealing is a tough word, right? I imagine they maybe gave him some food too. His name comes from the 1999 blockbuster film Padayappa, swashbuckling tale of betrayal and family honor, starring superstar, oh my god, Rajinikanth. Padayappa is also popular with tourists, of course, many of whom flock to the hilly town to click photos of the animal. But in recent months, the 50-year-old elephant has acquired a bit of a bad boy image. Oh no, Padayappa, what are you doing to us? You're gonna be a bad boy? I thought you were the town hero here. Locals say that Padayappa, who used to take leisurely strolls in and around town, has become noticeably irritable with people. The elephant reportedly broke the windshields of a truck in a tuk-tuk in January before running amok and eating the crops at nearby Butterbean Farm. So he's running amok, he's breaking the tuk-tuk and the truck, he's doing all these things. He don't give a, well, you know what. The incident was the latest in a series of episodes in which Padayappa displayed violent tendencies and raised concerns about the changes in his behavior. Now, why is he doing this? What is going on here with this elephant? Why is he doing this? Something tells me maybe the humans have something to do with it, but let's find out. Experts say it is, I was right, excessive human encroachment on the Padayappa's natural habitat causing the problems. Even elephants so I think that's like the rut. It's like their mating hormones kind of making them more aggressive. They don't become violent unless provoked, says Dr. P.S. Iyasa, a member of the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Asian Elephant Specialist Group. He added that Padayappa needs large, undisturbance-free habitats where it can roam and feed at will. Elephant habitats need to be protected. Steps should be taken to prevent their fragmentation. Human-animal conflict is frequently reported in India as shrinking natural habitats force wild animals to invade human settlements in search of food and shelter. In Kerala itself, rogue tusks separated from their flocks have killed 105 people between 2018 and 2022. Now that really tells you everything you need to know about this story, right? It's not that this elephant is just temperamental. It's not that it's just in the rut. It is forced to steal more food, to attack people because human beings are destroying its habitat, right? Now, this is certainly not an isolated story, right? We see stories of, humans expanding into natural habitats, deforesting huge swaths of rainforest and different habitats all over the world. This is just an example of that, right? It's that the conflicts that we have with the natural world, with animals, we're causing a lot of them, and whether what we can do about that, right? That's certainly up for debate. There are different types of solutions, right? Funding animal preservation, passing laws that can protect these habitats, right? And that's one thing to do in America. It's tough in other parts of the world. I'm not familiar at all with the animal protection laws in India, but clearly it's a growing problem, right? Hundreds of people are dying, and besides the human cost of this, right, the animal and natural cost is tremendous as well, right? These animals are being forced out of their homes. They're being brought into closer contact with humans, and it's leading to these, turns in what was once, a friendly, fun relationship with this elephant, and now it's becoming a problem, right? And really it's because of us, right? We're the ones kind of causing this. Unfortunately, this is kind of a trend that we're going to probably see a lot of on this show, is this idea that, if we could only interfere a little bit less with nature, it seems like we and the animals would be better off. So let's go to our next story. This one, we're taking a shift now out of the animal world, and this is a segment of the show we're going to call Just When You Thought. And just when you thought that the tech coming out in the world couldn't get any crazier, now we have chatbots. ChatGPT is the big one. I am a teacher by day, and certainly this has been a problem for us this year, is students finding this ChatGPT. They're using it to write essays, to forge homework assignments. They can even ask it to write in a style of their own capabilities. It'll put in typos and little grammatical mistakes to make it really hard to spot when there's plagiarism happening. So that's one front of this, right? The idea that it's going to reform the way that we run public education. But there's another side of it, which is that it's disrupting a lot of other industries too, right? There's other kinds of AI, AI-generated artworks, and now there's even AI-generated music. So let's go to this story. Music LM. Google AI generates music in various genres at 24 kilohertz. Your musical wish is Music LM's command, making audio from rich captions. Now, I saw a video of this kind of technology the other day. It was this duo artist, I don't remember what their name was, but they had basically typed in this description of a song they wanted, right? Make us a pop anthem with these low, like R&B undertones, right? Things like that. And so they're typing out this caption. They wait like an hour or two. It generates all these original, sounds, and it came back and the song was really good. The song was a bop. The song was like, they were jamming to it. It sounded kind of like them. They even gave it, they asked it to write lyrics that were in their style. And so, I don't know, I have conflicting feelings about this, right? How much of the music industry in 10 years will be AI generated, right? Well, I already know, based on what we saw last year with that FN Mecca, right, that labels are trying to do this, right? Record companies are done with human artists, right? They're volatile. Artists are emotional. They're, sometimes untimely. They are, they're human beings, right? They're human beings. And human beings don't always deliver a consistent product that fits all the parameters that this label is doing. And so from their perspective, they can make more consistent, reliable money by generating artists and songs with AI, right? And that seems to be where the music industry is headed. So let's read a little bit of this article, see what we can learn about Music LM, this music generating AI. On Thursday, researchers from Google had a feeling they'd be behind this, announced a new generative AI model called Music LM that can create 24 kilohertz musical audio from text descriptions, such as a, quote, calming violin melody backed by a distorted guitar riff. It can also transform a hummed melody into a different musical style and output music for several minutes. Music LM uses an AI model trained on what Google calls a large data set of unlabeled music, splice sounds probably, right? Independent artists uploading their own packs of sounds, drum kits, different guitar riffs, things like that. And I'm sure that these AIs are harvesting sounds from those kinds of platforms. I guess maybe we'll talk more about that. Along with captions from music caps, a new data set composed of 5,521 music text pairs. I imagine those are like little phrases describing different genres, describing different sounds that you want, that you can include in your captions when you want to generate a song. It gets these text descriptions from human experts for now, and it's matching audio clips from Google's audio set, a collection of over 2 million labeled 10-second sound clips pulled from YouTube videos. So that's like kind of the story behind the story here, is that these AIs are generating things based on what humans have already created. So are these YouTubers, these musicians, are they getting any kind of cut, royalties from these sounds that are used to generate these songs? Something tells me probably not. Generally speaking, Music LM works in two main parts. First, it takes a sequence of audio tokens, pieces of sound, and maps them to semantic tokens, which are words that represent a meaning, in captions for training. The second part receives user captions and/or input audio and generates acoustic tokens, which are pieces of sound that make up the resulting song output. The system relies on an earlier AI model called Audio LM, introduced by Google in September, along with other components such as SoundStream and Mulan. Google claims Music LM outperforms previous AI music generators in its audio quality and its adherence to the text descriptions. On the Music LM demonstration page, Google provides numerous examples of the AI model in action, creating audio from rich captions they feel describe the feel of the music, and even vocals, which are so far gibberish. Here's an example of a rich caption they provide. Give me a slow tempo, bass and drums led reggae song, sustained electric guitar, high-pitched bongos with ringing tones. Vocals are relaxed with a laid-back feel, very expressive. So this is cool, right? It's part of me is like, oh wow, this is amazing. Like you can describe a kind of music you want to hear, but it also, I don't know, it strips away some of this. It strips away some of the soul. I feel like if you part of what is magical to me about music is that, you don't always know like what you want to hear. I don't know. That maybe is a weird way to say it, but it's like part of it is that, I don't want to just order a specifically tailored piece of music like it's like I'm ordering off Grubhub or something, right? I want, this taco with this filler with this kind of toppings on it, right? And I want it customized exactly how I want it, right? It's kind of the same way I feel about these, CRISPR genetic modifiers, people that want tailor-made babies, right? It seems like you're kind of playing nature a little bit, you're playing God, and it's like this is going to allow people with absolutely no musical talent, but maybe that know some of these semantic tokens, right? You're going to see artists blow up that don't sing, that don't play an instrument at all, right? They're just good. It'll become a war of who can describe the best song, right? That will become pop music, right? Who can be the best? It's not about musical talent anymore. It's about descriptive talent, right? Who can put together the right combination of words that will generate the right piece of music that people want to listen to. And that's it's cool, but it's terrifying, right? It's stripping away this idea that human talent is what we should value, and it's saying, why don't you go with what AI creates, right? And it's part of this ongoing cultural kind of trend that we want to normalize these AI programs. We want to normalize using AI in our society. And I'm not so sure about that, right? I think that we should question these things. We should question how much we should rely on these technologies, how much we should be wary of these technologies before we just, go whole hog into the matrix here, because that's where this is headed. So that's enough for music generated AI. We'll follow this trend a little bit on the show, but that's it for now. Let's go on to a couple more. We have a couple more stories to get to today. First episode. Let's finish strong here. Let's keep going. So this is our science segment. So we're going to talk now about the world of minerals, plants, and fungi. The first story that I found on this category, it's not so much a mineral, but it's talking about the solid form of water, which is ice. Now, this headline caught my eye, and I wanted to read a little bit more, and I thought that some of you might be interested in this story, because scientists, those brilliant scientists out there have made a new kind of ice. I didn't know we needed one. I didn't know we needed a new kind of ice, but maybe it has something to offer us. So let's find out. The Amorphous solid is denser and could be water frozen in time. Isn't that what ice is? Is water? The word frozen in the phrase frozen in time is probably, I'm misunderstanding it here. So let's clarify here. So we have a bucket full of ice. We got these big steel balls in this bucket, and it says they're milling ordinary ice. So they're just freezing water normally, right, like you would in your freezer. And they put it in this bucket and they mill it. So I imagine that means they're kind of spinning it around in this bucket with these big steel balls. And this disrupted its crystalline structure and led to a novel, denser version of solid water. So technically, a new kind of ice. Scientists have created a new type of ice that matches the density and structure of water, perhaps opening a door to studying water's mysterious properties. Now, this is real. Water actually is a very, it's a deceptively simple molecule. It has a lot of properties we really don't fully understand. I can't go into it. I'm not a scientist. I don't know all the different properties that water has. I know that it's like the only liquid that can also be in a gas form and a solid form. Right? I remember that much from my middle school science class. But the fact that there's dry ice, there's different kinds of frozen liquids, but this is the first thing I've heard where it's just water, but it has a different structure than you would get if you normally froze it. So let's see what the implications of this are, if there's any, and what this story has to offer us. It might be liquid water frozen in time, says Martin Chaplin, a specialist in water structure at London South Bank University, who was not involved in the work. It could be very important, but why would you know that? Because you're not a part of the work. But if you're an expert on water structure, I suppose you're better to speak on it than I am. The ice is called medium-density amorphous ice. The team that created it, led by Alexander Rousseau-Finson at the University College of London, shook regular ice in a small container with centimeter-wide stainless steel balls at temperatures of negative 200 degrees Celsius to produce the variant, which has never been seen. Which has never been seen before. The ice appeared as a white granular powder that stuck to the metal balls. You mean snow? Slush? It seems like this experiment is them just taking ice cubes and shaking them in a bucket, and then the crushed up snow sticks to the balls, and they're like, whoa, this is a whole new thing. But maybe it is. I don't know. The findings were published today in Science, doing the hard work here, Science Journal. Haphazard molecules. Normally when water freezes, it crystallizes and its molecules are arranged into the familiar hexagonal solid structure that we call ice. Ice is less dense than its liquid form, an unusual property for a crystal. Depending on conditions such as pressure and the speed of freezing, water can also solidify in any of 24 other regular arrangements. Amorphous ice is different. It has no such order. You have a lot of molecules joining on haphazardly. All right, well, I'll suspend my disbelief, right? I'll accept that they have created a different kind of ice, but I want to know the so what here. So let's scroll down a little bit. The big implications, here we go. If confirmed, the new form of ice could enable studies of water in a manner not possible before. Liquid water is a strange material, says Chaplin. We still don't know as much about it as we'd like. For example, it is commonly thought that water is composed of two forms, low-density and high-density water, matching the previously known variants of amorphous ice. The discovery of a medium-density amorphous ice could challenge that idea. So this looks like it's one of these, middle planet, Jupiter, Saturn, one of the moons here. The ice plates on the surface of Enceladus rub against one another under tidal forces as the moon orbits Saturn. So it's a moon of Saturn. Denser amorphous ice could form at their boundaries. So where the plates are kind of rubbing together, it's crushing up the ice, similar to these steel ball mills that they replicated on Earth, and that's creating this medium density ice. But again, it still doesn't really give us the so what here. If medium-density amorphous ice is really connected to liquid water, it would imply that this model is incorrect, says Salzman. It could open up a new chapter in ice research. Now, ice research has been going on for a long, long time, right? Scientists go to Antarctica and the poles, they take ice core samples, and this allows them to find different bits of biological matter, different pieces of rock, things that are trapped in the ice from eons ago, thousands and thousands, even millions of years ago, deep, deep in these ice core samples. and it allows them to study not only the properties of the water, but the nature of the life, if any, of that existed at that time. So ice research has been going on for over 100 years, long time, and this could be the next chapter. There are implications, too, for understanding other worlds. Some moons in our own solar system, such as Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus, have icy surfaces. If two icy areas on such a moon were to rub together because of tidal forces, the force that the moon plays on the planet, they could produce medium-density amorphous ice between them through the same shearing process the researchers used. The increase in density creates gaps in the surface, producing disruptions on the moons as the ice cracks together. There would be a massive collapse of the ice, which could have severe implications for the geophysics of the icy moons. That, in turn, could have implications for the potential habitability of liquid water oceans that lie under the surface of these moons. One of the key things about those moons is whether you can have an interface between liquid water and the rocks. This is where life could emerge. Amorphous ice could have a role that we need to understand. So that's really the meat of this story. Why should we care about this discovery at all? Well, it implies that eventually these processes of shearing that creates the kind of ice that they've discovered will potentially lead to increased potential for habitability, the increased, and this is like the what am I looking for? The golden fleece of astronomy is discovering new life, right? Now, they've discovered traces of water on Mars. They've discovered what they thought were these like biological life forms, these microscopic organisms. I don't know too much about it. But what it seems like here is that we are looking for a planet B, right? That's part of the story here, is that ultimately humans want the idea to exist that there's another planet for us to go to when shit really hits the fan here on Earth, right? And that's alarming, right? It's a great discovery. I don't think there's anything wrong with pushing these kinds of astronomical discoveries. They're fascinating to me. But it does kind of contribute to this overall narrative that this planet is kind of a wash. We need to have somewhere else to run to when things go crazy here on Earth. And that's a perspective I have some issue with, because I think we should really be putting more of our energy and resources into kind of restoring the planet that we have to live on, which is Earth, versus, really setting our sights on inhabiting another moon or planet elsewhere in the solar system, right? That's kind of my perspective on it. So we got one more story here today, and then we'll wrap up for the day. And this is another outer space related story. So let's get into it. And again, kind of common theme here, but humans causing a little bit of a disruption in outer space, even more so than they have been. And this is another story dealing with space, and it talks about our good friend Elon Musk. Traffic pattern in the sky. SpaceX satellite train fascinates Floridians. Here's how to see it. So you can kind of see it. I'm not going to play the video, but you can see that it's not just one satellite here at the top. It is a string of connected Starlink satellites, the high-speed internet satellite-powered internet that Elon Musk is launching across the world. And it's kind of cool, right? It creates this line train of satellites, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? In regular ice I'm talking about there. This is just the tip, right? This is only going to get crazier, right? You're going to see there are going to be literal lanes of traffic in the sky in the next 50 years, I think, right? You're going to see all the night sky filled up with human-created satellites, right? And that, I think, is part of the meat of this story here. I love stargazing. I love looking out into space, and, if I can get out to the mountains and really, really see the sky full of stars, that is one of the best experiences, in my opinion, on Earth that you can have. Unfortunately, right, over the course of my own lifetime, right, we've seen light pollution decimate that, right? You have to really go out somewhere in the woods and at night, somewhere on a really clear night, if you can get up high, to see any real amount of stars, right? Most times we have so many artificial lights down here on Earth, it's really hard to see the stars at all, right? And now it's not even that you're not going to see the natural stars that are out there. You're going to start seeing just the shit that we throw up there, right? More and more and more, right? These kinds of satellites. And of course, what do humans love more than anything? Traffic. So, of course, that's the first thing we create in space is traffic here. So let's read a little bit of this story. It's in Jacksonville, Florida, down where my parents are in Florida. My dad loves watching the launches from Cape Canaveral. And this is something that, we're hoping to see some more of. Or maybe not. Floridians with their eyes on the skies Friday night alerted us and our news partners farther north to a peculiar light formation tracking across the otherwise still stars. Cutting to the chase, this was a batch of Starlink satellites, according to News 6 chief meteorologist Tom Sorellis. News4Jax and FindStarlink.com, to name a few sources. Chances are, you may have even watched some of those Starlink units make their way to low Earth orbit. Yada, yada, yada. But let's talk a little bit about the train here. So we've covered the Starlink train before, as people call it, and we'll probably cover it again. As I said, this is not going to stop. The nation seems to be going through a pointed relapse of UFO fever, with those dubious balloons on tour, with the Pentagon believing is a Chinese spy balloon. So the time has come once again to talk about at least what we know for sure, which is that we are filling up the sky with our crap. According to SpaceX, and just the idea that people are renewing this UFO fever, right? Obviously, the government came out last year and they were like, oh, we have all these unreleased documents and things from Area 51 and all these classified UFO-related documents, and it all turned out to be a big bunch of baloney. So I didn't see much substantial come out of that. It was nothing paradigm-shifting coming out of that release. But people are more intrigued than ever, I think, by the idea that as humans evolve, as our planet is developed, we are going to be contacted by some kind of intelligent life out there. And maybe launching more of these Starlink satellites is tricking people into thinking there's aliens out there more and more and more. I think that there are aliens out there. I don't know if they would ever come and visit us here on Earth for any reason, but we'll see. According to SpaceX, Starlink satellites became visible from the ground as sunlight scatters off the unit's chassis and solar arrays. Though SpaceX claims, quote, any satellite can be visible from Earth at night, which is true, it has already been had to make revisions in new Starlink generations to mitigate their brightness, which has drawn the ire of astronomers who complain that the thousands of Starlink units orbiting the planet are impacting scientific observations. And, certainly that is true, right? We are interfering with scientists' ability to conduct good science by crowding up the airspace around our planet with these satellites. But also, I think there is that real spiritual human cost of it strips humans of the ability to really appreciate their position on the planet in relation to outer space. And that's a problem. I really think that has to contribute to some of the mental illness, some of the stress and anxiety we feel could be relieved if we had a better look of the night sky every night. I think this is something that the ancients took for granted, and it really helped enrich their perspective. It helped create these fields of astronomy and, science, really. By gazing out at the space and seeing these stars, right? And if we don't have that anymore because of light pollution and now these satellites, right, that's a real problem. I think that's really affecting humanity in a negative way. So that kind of brings us to the close of the show for today. Zach on Earth, episode 1, Hello World. We're going to try and bring you an episode weekly, a kind of roundup of the latest news, as I said, from the human world and beyond. I am your host, Zach, and now I will see you all next time. Have a great night, everyone.